de tout reprogrammer. On ira, on saura sauver notre existence, se donner une chance de tout effacer. On ira, on saura sauver notre existence pour refaire un monde sans danger. Comme Lyoko, tout reprogrammer. Comme Lyoko, un monde sans danger.
Hello, and welcome to Return to the Past, a Code Lyoko retrospective. We are the internet's premier Code Lyoko podcast because we are the first, the only, and the best.
I am David, and I am downright sugoi.
I'm Ben, and the charges have never been proven.
And I'm Mary, and I have a structured settlement, and I need cash now.
It's your money. Use it when you need it.
Yes, it's my money, and I need it now. I hope you guys know American commercials from about 5 years ago, because that's the kind of humor we're dealing with here, folks. Speaking of humor...
Well, the majority of our audience is still American, right?
Yeah, that's very true.
How are those numbers looking?
Well, our second most listened country is still Costa Rica, so that's pretty cool.
Any actual French people listening to our
Not that I
podcast?
can tell, unfortunately. So guys, guess what episode this is? This is our 10th episode, 10.
Woo! Double digits!
I know, right? Can you believe it, that we've done this crazy podcast thing 10 whole times?
My gosh, and you people aren't sick of me yet? I don't know what I've done to you to make you think that, but...
Ben, they love us very, very much. Our feedback has been
If it makes you feel a little better, Ben, I'm a little sick of you.
Oh, thanks. That does make me feel better.
That's not true. We love you.
Guys.
Shucks.
I love you both.
She loves me more.
You're okay.
Call back. Okay, anyway, so...
Well, David, I love you in a smooching way.
Oh, Jesus. Can we go one episode? One! I'm okay. We're okay.
No.
I'm okay.
But yes, 10 episodes, and we're getting better and better at it. As you can tell from the fact that my voice probably sounds much better, I realized that for the last few episodes I had forgotten to set Audacity to record to my external mic, so it was recording off my computer, and I would like to apologize for making that kind of amateur mistake. Another sort of oversight we had, Ben, if you would do the honors.
So we did receive an email this past week, and we have been informed that we are not actually the first Code Lyoko podcast. There have been others, it turns out. So to all those giants upon whose shoulders we stand, we thank you for taking these steps before us. However, because our little shtick in the beginning has gotten kind of entrenched, we are going to keep using the words first. We are, of course, the first Code Lyoko podcast in English, distributed on iTunes and to the internet-using public at large.
As far as I know.
As far as we know. But
there
then again...
is one other Code Lyoko podcast on iTunes. It appears to be a parody series in French. I don't know anything else about it because it's in French.
That said, if any of you listeners out there are veterans of these Code Lyoko podcasts gone by, and you want to tell us about the kind of things that you did, or even link us, we would love to hear it. Just drop us a line if you want to be pissed and be like, hey, what the crap are you doing wandering around? Well, you can send that email to David.
Oh, hey now.
Or you can tweet at me at my very own tweeter, which is at David RTTP. I crave attention. Even negative attention is better than neglect, so go ahead and tweet that at me.
Send anything you want, positive or negative, our way, and we will give you the means to do so at the end of the episode. For now, who wants to talk about Girl of the / My Dreams?
I don't.
Oh, you don't like it?
Well, this wasn't a bad episode. It's just that the premise of this episode, I think I've mentioned this before, I have really overpowering secondhand embarrassment.
Me too.
To the point where it prevents me from enjoying things a lot. So there are sequences in this episode where, like, Jeremy pressured into interacting with somebody on a premise that he isn't sure what the answer is going to be, and that was really like I had to take off my headphones and hold them far away from my ear so I could only barely hear what was going on while I was watching the episode.
It's a cringe moment.
There is
my soul cringed for at least a good half of the screen time.
Oh my goodness, same here. Like, I'll be real with you guys. I started watching Code Lyoko 12 years ago. I'm pretty sure that when I watched this episode was the very first time I had seen it beginning to end. Because I've kind of been avoiding it for all these years.
Yeah.
Well, I am once again the outlier, because I think it's one of the best ones we've seen so far.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Well,
it's one of my favorites.
I don't think it's necessarily a bad episode. I just didn't personally enjoy watching it.
Well, I understand.
I think it's just because we know that Jeremy is making a fool of himself, and something, I guess, with Ben and I, it just sort of twists our souls, and we just, I think...
don't get that. When I look back on something that I did that's embarrassing now in retrospect, that kills me. But I don't get it secondhand like you do.
Well, maybe it's just sort of a different way of thinking.
My big takeaway from this episode is that the one-off character introduced therein should have been in more episodes. She was a good character.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
She should have been, if only because I really wanted to know, like, more about her and wanted her to be more than just, like, an extremely convenient coincidence. And also, as far as we know, she's still at the school, so, you know...
And there are other one-off characters that do get screen time later on, in later episodes.
Exactly, like you mentioned earlier, Theo.
Theo, yes. We don't know Theo
Theo's
yet.
in the background a couple more times, isn't he?
Yeah, that's exactly what we were saying, that he's in the background a few more times. Kind of like Theo or Emily.
But Emily isn't really, like, she was there from the beginning. It's just that she was focused on in one episode. She had a day in the spotlight. Or haven't we seen Emily yet?
We haven't seen Emily yet. She features in routine.
Well, we haven't heard her speak. I thought we've seen her around.
I think we have.
I don't know. I guess we'll find out. We're also being more cagey than usual about this episode. We're talking about it as if people haven't seen it. Maybe they haven't. I don't really know how our listeners approach our episodes versus the episode that we talk about. Someone should let us know. Like, do you watch the episode and then listen to us? Do you watch it? I don't know. Either way, my point is this.
Question. Is there anyone out there that got into the show because of our podcast?
At least one person.
I will give... What?
This is news.
Yeah, there's a friend of mine that I interact with that I introduced to the podcast. And
oh, that's great.
Yeah. Isn't it cool?
One of us. One of us.
One of us.
We accept you.
You are valid. All of our listeners
Your life is worth now.
Except Kevin.
We said we wouldn't talk about Kevin.
You're right. Anyway, I wanted to say this. We haven't really... We've done a lot of talking. We haven't talked about any of the plot of the episode. Here's the deal.
No, we haven't. We haven't.
There is a new student at Kadic, which is, of course, how most great Code Lyoko fanfictions start.
Oh, yes, it does.
And this student looks suspiciously... Well, she looks suspiciously like Aelita. Her name is Taelia. Taelia. It is, of course, an anagram. But before we talk about Taelia in more detail, we do need to mention the very opening sequence of the episode. And I actually think this particular few moments here is one of the most mature, genuine moments between Jeremy and Aelita. Jeremy is, of course, sitting at his computer, typing away, and we see the sequence on his computer that indicates his test run for a materialization program. We see a picture of Aelita in the T-pose, and she's rotating, and there's all these little blip, 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 blip. It's one of the only things that repeats from episode to episode in this fashion that sort of gives you a sense of continuity and where Jeremy is with a program. But anyway, his program doesn't work this time, and Jeremy is very upset. And he just, I'm worthless, he says. And Aelita says, Jeremy, you're not worthless. And Jeremy says, well, thanks, but I just am not able to get this program done. Does anyone remember exactly what Aelita says? Because it's a very poignant line.
She does. She asks, do you think we'd get along in your world?
and he...
Which is very ominous foreshadowing.
It is. It is very ominous foreshadowing because over the next 3 seasons, we do get to see how they get along in Meat Space.
And it's not great.
Well, it doesn't go swimmingly. It's not the sort of perfection that Jeremy envisioned. But here he's just sort of like, he's confident that they will. And Alita says something like, because I wouldn't want to get along with someone who's useless.
I wouldn't want my best friend to be useless, I think. I wouldn't want to have a best friend who's useless.
That was the one.
That's it. And I thought that was very... again, Alita shows herself to be pretty much with the exception of Yumi, the most mature member of the group.
Oh, yes.
Well, she's even, like... I don't know. She's mature in a different way. Yumi...
That's exactly right.
She is mature in a very different way, but also naive in others, as we see in other episodes.
That's very true. We will.
She's a little depending on the writer, but she tends to skew toward mature wisdom, which is really good. It's really good. Also, I didn't want to interrupt you, Ben, because you were on a roll. Oh, sorry, dude?
Oh, no, I just said that until she becomes a sass queen, which she does.
Yes. Well, she keeps a little of her maturity. Like I was saying, Ben, I didn't want to interrupt you because you were on a roll. I just wanted to point out the title. It's one of the few English titles that's not very elegantly translated. It's a little better than Teddy Godzilla. It's alternately transliterated as The Girl of the Dreams, The Girl of My Dreams. It shows up as The Dreams in the title card. I've put it as both because one is correct and the other is official. Don't worry about it, basically. It's Lyoko. You should really just relax.
I'm a stickler I always stick with the original regardless of whether it's correct or not.
Me too.
It's like people try to tell me that Jeremy is spelled with a Y.
Oh, no, it's not. It's not.
But I'm not going to get into that because it'll take the whole episode.
Yeah.
Anyway, just as Jeremy and Alita are having this conversation, Odd comes in and says, Jeremy, we've got to go to class. And Jeremy's like, oh crap, that's right. I'm a student and I have to attend school. So they leave.
Chagrin.
And immediately after Jeremy leaves, we see Alita on Lyoko, and she turns her head and screams as if something has just attacked her. And then we cut to the class where Mr. Delmas...
Not yet.
Not yet.
Ulrich and Yumi are dragging a large object.
They are.
They're pushing a large object
excuse
into
me.
Yumi's classroom.
Yes.
Also, gotta point out, first time we see the mountain sector.
Yes.
In all its purple glory.
It is the most beautiful sector. And
it is the best sector.
I was like fanning myself as I saw it. I'm like, oh man, here it is. Here's my son.
Guys.
Anyway,
guys.
Moving on.
So Jeremy, dang it, I'm going to get these kids' names right on these episodes. Are pushing this giant thing, and they're being sassy with each other.
I don't remember quite what they said.
I don't either, but it turns out that Yumi's doing a report, and all she says is that this idol that they're pushing has been in her family for hundreds of years. Centuries.
And it's going to be a real showstopper.
I mean, she's absolutely correct. As we see after they wheel it in and leave. Wait. Then... What?
I have something to add.
What?
If I were Yumi's parents, I would never in a million years have let her take that thing out of the house.
Oh my god.
Absolutely not. But, Mary, tell us what it is.
Well, our old friends, Ace Reporters Millie and Tamia, show up to be little snoops.
They're back! Millie and Tamia are back, you guys!
They are.
They're back. They're looking for a super scoop.
Yep. And yeah, David, what do they say that this is?
It's a big, juicy scoop.
Yes, that's what they say. It's wonderful.
Coincidentally, also the title of the ice cream-themed sequel to Sausage Party.
Oh! Wah, wah, wah.
By the authority vested in me, I hereby remove you from the podcast for the next 10 minutes for even mentioning the name of that thing that you just mentioned.
I've never seen it, and I don't intend on seeing it.
Oh, me neither.
Yeah.
That thing terrifies me.
So, big juicy scoop that Millie and Tamia have, turns out, as they open the cabinet where the thingamabob is stored and they pull down the drape, is a complete set of samurai armor.
Yeah. And
Complete with sword.
Complete with sword. It is beautiful, you guys. Like, I've looked up pictures of it just so sort of context. It's period accurate. It looks like it's maybe from the 1800s. I mean, most of it is metal. So I think it's
Well,
a
lot
later.
of it looks like it might be leather.
I don't know. I was always under the impression that it would have had to have been metal for Xana to be able to move it. Because something about electricity or magnetism.
Well, no,
I never
because
knew
he
how
can-
Xana could do that sort of thing.
It can
but-
also possess humans, so it doesn't have to be metal.
Yes.
Well, I thought possessing was separate from what he was doing here, because Xana can't do that yet here.
No, he can't. Or at least I don't think he can. But
There's
just
something
the
very funny, though. After Millie and Tamiya finish filming the thing, they leave the door open. And that's
sure do.
when a little wisp of Xana, a little purple ectoplasm, just kind of oozes into the room and starts enveloping the armor. And I
Which
Which
thought,
glows when he is inside of it, which is weird.
but I
Now-
thought it's super funny. The implication that if the doors were closed, Xana couldn't have gotten in.
Oh my goodness, you're right.
Well, gosh darn it, Millie! Ugh.
Unlike velociraptors, Xana doesn't know how doorknobs work.
Damn,
Or
darn
does
it,
he?
Millie. First your teddy bear, now this. But
Yeah, geez. It turns out Millie has been the unknowing villain of Code Lyoko this entire time.
I know, right? The really nuts thing about this, though, is I'm going to put a big old disclaimer here. I know my knowledge of Japanese culture and of its history and of relics like these is little to none. But what I want to know, if anyone knows this, how common is it for a modern Japanese family to just have a full, authentic suit of samurai armor around?
I doubt it's any more common than a modern English family owning knight lance and armor and, that stuff.
In perfect condition, mind you.
Yes.
It's very well kept. I have to presume that it indicates some level of wealth, which of course is also indicated by Yumi's presence at Kadic, which is later referenced as costing, quote, a small fortune.
Yes. I mean...
But you're right, David. I would not let my daughter wheel this into a middle school for any period of time.
Well, to be fair, we do see Yumi's father... Well, that was an emergency. I kind of don't want to spoil what Yumi's father does with it in a later episode.
But now
Now it's the
after
moment of
Xana
truth.
has taken possession of a suit of armor, then we switch to Mrs. Hertz's class. Yes.
I think so.
Yes, you do.
Right.
You do. And then...
Okay. So we are introduced to Taelia, and Taelia is a girl of about Aelita's height, with about her hairstyle. It's a darker shade of pink, and she's wearing pink clothes, pinkish clothes, pink and a little bit of purple. She isn't very talkative, and there's this funny sequence. Of course, Jeremy, Odd, and Ulrich are sort of talking amongst themselves as all this is happening, and Odd is talking to Jeremy about, how would you respond if Aelita was here, in the real world, touching on that note of Aelita saying that she wouldn't want a best friend who's useless, because Odd is trying to prove that Jeremy wouldn't be able to do anything, anything, and Jeremy says, no, I would be able to say something. I'd say, and then he looks up front, and there is Taelia, who looks almost functionally identical to Aelita, except for the slightly darker hair.
Right, and
Side note.
Slightly darker.
Side-
Significantly darker.
Side note.
Okay.
The sound he makes when he sees Taelia is more suggestive than all the panting and gasping in Lyoko.
Now that you mention it, I do, yes. Because it was kind of like a, oh.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know
just
what
like...
it was.
It was just
Oh,
like that.
wow.
Like that song with Andy Samberg, and I'm not gonna say the name of it, but it's not the one about being in a boat with T-Pain. It's the other one.
No homo. If you want to compliment a friend. No, not that one.
No,
I like that one.
it's the other one.
Which one?
No, it's
Oh.
in my pants. I was trying to imply
yes.
it without saying it, but that's basically what it sounds like Jeremy did. But of course, we're not supposed to think that, but we do anyway because
I'm
we're
not sure I
horrible
can
people.
keep that in the episode, folks.
Oh.
Well, you can bleep out.
Okay.
You can bleep out the relevant.
But it's suggestive. You can leave the part where it's suggestive.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's an awkward sound.
Oh, it very much is.
I've never heard in my pants. I know what I'm gonna YouTube after this.
Oh, David, we're gonna get you caught up on everything The Lonely Island.
Oh, The Lonely Island.
I only know.
I couldn't think of the name.
I'm on a boat and no homo. Oh no, and also threw it on the ground. That's pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
Happy birthday to the ground!
Yes.
My dad's not a phone. That's also from the song.
Yeah.
I only know the part about Happy Birthday to the Ground.
Yep. There's also Do the Creep. There's also the three-way song.
Oh, yeah. Mary, I sung a portion of the three-way song in an earlier episode, and you cut it out.
I did?
You did.
Well, then sing it now, please.
Well, no, now I don't wanna.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
If it's in a three-way.
It's not gay if it's in a three-way with a honey in the middle. There can be some leeway.
Yes.
Welcome to our Lonely Island podcast. Thank you for joining us.
So where were we? We were talking about Jeremy making weird noises, and then we immediately cut to the group all together, just awkwardly sitting on this bench and staring at Taelia from a distance. Taelia is just sort of sitting on her own, reading a book, minding her own business. And, by the way, she's said nothing, she's done almost nothing to indicate that she's anything like Aelita at all, except that she looks like her, and happened to show up at the school just after Jeremy did his materialization test. And Jeremy's just staring at her. And I don't remember exactly what all they said, but I do know that he's repeating over to himself, like, it has to be her. There can't be any other way. And it's like he keeps switching back and forth. He doubts it, and then he believes it. He wants it to be true that that's Aelita, even if it flies in the face of all logic, which is a recurring theme.
Yeah, this is a very truly Jeremy moment. We are, of course, conditioned to see Jeremy as the smarts, and he's the logic behind the operation. But the truth is that when Aelita is involved in pretty much any way whatsoever, logic tends to go out the window for him.
Oh yes, this is probably one of the more dangerous times when that happens too. Like, Cruel Dilemma was another one, and to a lesser extent, Seeing is Believing. But at this point, he just won't listen to reason.
He wants so very, very desperately for his waifu to have come to lifeu. And he will not listen to reason.
Right.
And so the warriors approach her. I hate that we've taken to calling them the warriors, by the way. The main characters approach Taelia, and I think Odd is the first to speak, right? And he says something like, does the word virtual world mean anything to you?
And what does Taelia say? Something like...
yes, it means that I should get going.
It means that I think it should be going.
Yeah. No, see, I think it's like, at first, the boys just try to make conversation with her, and she shoots back with, if you're trying to pick me up, it's not working.
No,
like
she says, no, I remember now. The first thing Odd says is like, hey, do we know you from somewhere? You look a little familiar. And she's like, oh, come on, that's the oldest pickup line in the book.
Yeah, no, she proves herself to be, I don't know whether to go all the way and say she's rude or just really suspicious and not willing to talk to them.
I think she's definitely standoffish.
Yes.
At the time, contemporarily, and I want to note that when I say contemporarily, I'm pretty sure that I did not see Girl of the Dreams my first run through Season 1. I think I caught it later afterward. So it's definitely one of the more chronologically later episodes that I saw. I used to think she was really cold.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason I didn't like this episode before. I don't think that's necessarily true now. I think she was just approached by all these people who were talking about weird things to her, and she definitely comes off as the kind of person who is not really inclined to make conversation with people. I don't think that's necessarily a cold way to be. So I think since I've aged from the first time that I saw this episode, looking back at the ways that men interact with women sometimes. I do tend to think now that Taelia's reaction is pretty justified.
She's coming off as just generally mistrustful and just not really willing.
She has a no-nonsense attitude.
That too, yes. Yes, very much. So she's in the wrong show. Tell you that.
Oh boy, is she. Especially wrong appearance to have, especially in this moment. So yeah, then they decide that
How
since she's...
creepy is it, though, when you think about it? There's this girl, she just showed up at school, and the first thing that happens is that a creepy nerd approaches her because she reminds him of his waifu.
It's pretty bad.
That is really bad.
If we watch this episode from Taelia's perspective, I think it would be very clear that was the case. And to be perfectly honest, that's the kind of perspective that this show needs sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
We watch or we see the episode through the perspective of the Lyoko warriors. We are conditioned to accept all of these outlandish things. There's a supercomputer at the basement of this factory with a world inside of it that you can go into with scanners, and there's an evil virus. Like, that's off the wall. That's completely crazy, but we don't think that.
You guys, what if the real world is itself a simulation in another supercomputer?
David.
Yes?
Let's not get metaphysical because I don't want my brain to hurt. It's late. I need to go to sleep and go to work tomorrow and not have to ponder, eyes wide open, staring at my ceiling at 3 o'clock this morning, thinking about if things are real. So let me clamp that down right now. No metaphysics in this podcast.
Well, maybe a little metaphysics,
None.
But not right now.
But what if a tree falls in the forest and no one is around?
David.
Yes?
Stop it.
What's the sound?
Stop it.
Metaphysics.
So Talia's really weirded out, and eventually she just sort of leaves.
Yeah.
Jeremy asks, to tell them why she was at the school, and she's just not having it. So she just gets up and leaves.
Yeah,
and is...
Come to think of it, when you look back at the things they're asking her, to someone who doesn't know what they're talking about, it makes absolutely no sense.
It sounds like they're making fun of her, too.
Yeah, it does. Which I'm sure is what they thought. Now, Jeremy still isn't convinced, and he's in math class with, we see Mrs. Mayer for the first time. That's pretty cool. And he still isn't convinced that this isn't Aelita, when Odd tells him, well, you can check by seeing if Aelita's still on Lyoko.
I thought it was Ulrich who said that.
Oh, was it?
We watched this episode not, under an hour ago, and already we're forgetting the details.
I watched it I watched it a few days ago, longer ago than you guys did. So
I watched it under an hour ago.
So yeah, it's probably...
I saw it yesterday. So
it's probably fresher in your guys' memories than it is in mine. I need to be more careful.
I thought it was odd.
Might have been odd. It's a little odd that we don't remember, am I right?
What I did make note of is that Jeremy is just so worked up, he has to see that he makes an excuse to get out of class and check, and this is the first time he fakes having to go to the infirmary.
The infirmary. Infirmary is one of the new words that this show taught me.
Come to think of it, it may have me too.
Me too, probably.
So, Jeremy's like, I'm feeling really sick, and I need to go to the infirmary, and Odd, picking up on this, says, oh, I'll take him, and, listen,
that's the oldest trick
I went to public school all my life, I need to go to the bathroom, or I need to go to the nurse's office, I'm going to take him. Okay, any teacher who's worth their salt should know that these kids are just BSing you. Does Mrs. Mayer do that? No, she says, oh, okay, please go. By the way, I could have sworn her name was Mrs. Knapp. Did I make that up? Is she called that in another episode, or am I just crazy?
No, she's Mrs. Mayer.
Mrs. Knapp?
No. Okay. Yeah.
With a K?
With a K. That's what I thought.
Maybe they try renaming her at some point, but I think most of the time she's Mrs. Mayer.
I don't remember Mrs. Knapp at all. I've always called her Mrs. Mayer. Or Miss Mayer.
I misremember things quite frequently, so that could just be that. So they... we will see them use this excuse many, 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 many more times.
Oh, yes.
But when you think about it, the teachers only ever hear it once. Because they rewind time. They can use the same excuse as many times as they want.
Perks of the job.
I know, right? Controlling time and space. It has its perks when you're 13 and you can change the universe at will. How cool is that, right?
Then you grow up and you need drugs to do that.
Oh... Yeah. Oh.
So do we go to Yumi now? She's giving her report.
Not quite yet. Jeremy and Odd go back to Jeremy's room, and they can't get in touch with Aelita.
Ooh,
And this
it's a
is-
mystery.
This is all the proof that Jeremy needs. He, like, grabs Odd by the shoulders and is shaking him. He's like, Taelia, Xylita, this is it. This is it.
He looks so happy. That's the happiest we've seen him yet.
It is. Well, it's kind of a creepy face. Here, I'll show it to you in
Yeah,
the
I
chat.
think he looks kind of man. Oh my God, Mary just showed us a screenshot. We'll have to remember to put that so you guys can see it because, I mean, that's a happy face, yes, but wow.
He I don't even know how to describe that generously.
Just looking at that face and just imagining it say the word super nuclear. Yes, I'm gonna have nightmares for the rest of my life.
Yep. Now we go to Yumi giving her report on Japan, and she has all sorts of cool things. Like she has a red oni mask. That's really cool.
It's a white Oni mask.
Oh,
It's white.
Oh, I thought it was red because it had red accents.
It has red horns, but it's mostly white.
Yeah, I know there's red oni and blue oni. I don't know. Like I said, almost no knowledge of Japan and Japanese culture. apart
The
from
Oni
what
the Oni mask and the samurai armor are the only things that she has that I recognized. Oh, there's a fan too. A fan and a
Yes,
net.
there is
She has
a fan.
and I believe she has a tea set out there, like a Japanese tea set.
Yes, she
doesn't
does. She does. She has a scroll. She has a blade, and then she has a little red bug looking thing. I will not venture to try and guess what it is because I legitimately don't know. But I would love to know what it is if anyone knows.
She does not have, conspicuously, any tanukis. There are no tanukis on the table.
My goodness, you're right. Maybe it's because tanukis usually have conspicuously large balls. that
Yes.
Would not,
Yeah, that's...
Of course, then again, Kiwi has conspicuously
That was going to be
large
my
balls,
one
and he
word,
gets
my
to be-
one word response to your argument. Kiwi.
Oh well.
Oh, well.
C'est la vie. So, Yumi, of course, she's finished her report, and she says, I can't really explain to you all of Japanese culture because that would take hours, and I'm pretty sure you guys are already sick of me, and there's laughs. But she says, there is one thing that I want to show you. It's a symbol of Japanese culture, and it's...
She
opens
says a living symbol of Japanese culture.
a living
which
symbol
is weird.
of Japan.
Yes.
And she opens the cabinet,
And
she
gone.
says, and it's a drape? Because all that's there is the drape that's laying on the floor, and it's an empty cabinet.
And true to what she said...
Wouldn't it be great if the sanified armor tied the drape around its neck like a cape?
Oh my goodness, that would have been amazing.
That would have been.
That
But
would have
unfortunately,
been
Xana is not that creative.
Unfortunately, no. But he did make the suit of armor living, because here it is, walking down the hall, and once again, scaring Jim.
Oh, poor Jim.
Oh, poor Jim.
It's always Jim.
First the teddy bear, and now this.
Jim's like, hey, what are you doing there? And then the phantom armor raises its sword as he just stands there stupidly like a deer in headlights. And I think that's actually the last we see of Jim in the episode.
I think you're right.
I think
But
it is,
clearly
yeah.
he didn't die.
Clearly he didn't
because
die,
otherwise-
but if
Yeah.
if we didn't know that he was in the next episode or whatever, we could have easily assumed that he was dead.
To the family of Jim.
If Jim can take on beavers in Quebec, he can take on anything. We'll learn about the beavers in Quebec in later episodes.
Yes, we will.
Later seasons.
And speaking of Jim and his encounter with the samurai armor, that actually comes full circle pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah.
As another session of Jeremy just staring awkwardly at Taelia from across the room is interrupted when Principal Delmas comes into the cafeteria with the police.
And these are very serious-looking police, and we can see one guy, and he's got a mustache, as police do, and he's staring very sternly, and Mr. Delmas is like, well, dear students, your dear teacher
I love
Jim,
these
who you all...
Jean-Pierreisms.
Yeah. Your dear teacher Jim, who I'm sure you all know and respect.
And Odd replies, hey, don't push it.
Yeah. Anyway, Jean-Pierre does he report to them that someone has stolen the armor and is walking around wearing it, or does he just say that the armor is missing?
He
wouldn't know about the armor, right?
Well, I think Jim said something about armor.
Oh,
and...
then we couldn't assume that he died.
Yep, no, we can't, unfortunately. Well, I mean, fortunately. But they seem... I think they do, because they immediately zero in on Yumi, because sort of rumors have gotten around that she's the one who owned the armor. Or Well, I won't make any assumptions of that sort. Either way, they pull Yumi aside, and then things get a little weird. This is probably the point, I'm going to make a guess, Ben, because it was for me. This is the point where kind of my skeleton was starting to leave my body, and I kind of had to pause the episode for a little bit.
Yeah, I had to pause the episode for a long time too. I think I paused the episode. I watched an entire documentary on the Oklahoma City bombing.
Oh my!
And then I was ready to come back and finish the episode.
What happens is that Jeremy runs into Talia's bedroom, her dorm, where she is unpacking, and he just explodes nerdiness all over her.
He does.
He calls her Aelita.
He calls her Aelita, and he says something like, "Xana is your sworn enemy."
Yeah, he just talks to her as though she definitely has amnesia, and the one way that he can possibly undo that amnesia is to just spout utter nonsense at her until she understands. I think at one point he physically grabs her.
He does.
And she pushes him away. I think so.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. This episode is very, very, very creepy from Talia's perspective, and it continues to be.
Yes, I've put an image in the chat.
I can't look at it.
Oh.
Yeah, he's grabbing her, and Taelia has her arms straight to her sides, and she's backing away, and her eyes are pretty wide, and she's not digging it.
Yeah, it's clear.
She's not digging it.
Jeremy, true to what Odd said, he has no idea how to interact with her in Meat's face. He's also yelling. I see her in my nose. He's yelling, "You have to trust me."
Yeah, his volume does not go below bellowing during this entire sequence. I'm pretty sure he's crazed.
This is nuts. And almost thankfully, this very, very this very creepy scene gets interrupted by Mr. Samurai Man.
So, of course, that sort of takes a little tension off of my soul, because clearly this proves what Jeremy is talking about, and Taelia will understand a little bit of what he's saying. If you look at this outlandish, sentient walking set of samurai armor, then you know that maybe these other weird things...
Well, that's a little mind-breaking on its own, though.
Yeah.
It's no relief to know that his insanity...
It's not relief to Taelia. It's just, I was just saying it's a relief to me.
Oh, okay.
I was able to watch the episode from then on without really...
Oh, same here.
Excuse me.
Oh no, did I give you my cold?
No, I just choked on existing. This happens to me every now and then.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's fine. Anyway, I don't know what I was saying, so let's continue.
Well, basically, they just have a sort of extended chase scene with the armor following them around. And at this point, Jeremy becomes further convinced this is Aelita because he thinks that the armor is after Taelia.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Yes, he does. And I think at this point they actually head for the boiler room because Jeremy wants to take her to the factory. And at this point, the police are interrogating Yumi about the whereabouts of the samurai armor as if she would know anything about it.
Well, they know it's hers, don't they?
They do, but why would she have anything to do with it being stolen? I'm very confused.
Well, because somebody's running around in it and attempting to murder people with the sword. Or the katana, if you will.
That's very true. I'm not sure what they think she has to do with it. Do they think she's, running around in the armor?
I'm sure they're just asking her, do you know of anyone who might have wanted to steal it? You know?
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yumi is a good kid.
She is, even though she gets picked on.
There's something we completely neglected to mention.
What?
After the scene in the courtyard, when Taelia walks away, Yumi, the bell rings and class is about to start, and Yumi says, "Wish me luck in my report, you guys," and nobody says a word. They they walk right past her.
Oh man, nobody wished her luck.
Nobody wished her luck, and she looked so happy, oh hey, wish me luck, I'm gonna knock him dead, and nobody cared.
Aww.
Nobody
This
cared.
is clearly why all this madness happened. It would have been so much better,
First City
failed.
Godzilla, and now this.
Well, anyway.
Anyway. Meanwhile, Taelia and Jeremy have gotten to the factory, and of course, Jeremy, without even thinking about it, takes her right down.
because, she's Aelita.
Yes.
Oh, I want to note something for all of fandom to be explicitly aware. So we don't really ever see this sequence much ever, but there is a keypad that you have to access in order to use the elevator that they use. It's implied, I think, that they do it every time. We just never see it.
Right, because it doesn't quite fit with the rhythm of the song they usually play when they're going to the factory.
But the code that Jeremy enters in order to use the elevator is 5793. There is your code, Lyoko. Obscure trivia for the day. I don't know if it's consistent throughout, the whole series.
Do you think
but
it
in
means
this episode,
anything?
It is the center digit, and then he proceeds to go clockwise around the corners.
Oh, so it's nothing special. All right.
Nothing special. Probably just easy to remember.
It's like Mary's Netflix password.
What?
I don't know Mary's Netflix password.
I'm just kidding. I'm just joking.
Oh man,
What do you think I said?
We've been stealing your Netflix password this whole time.
I didn't know. I didn't understand the joke for a second. Now I understand it and I love it. It's especially
for a second there, I felt really bad because I didn't know if it was actually a secret. But...
No. It's okay.
All right.
It's okay.
Mwah.
No.
Stop smooching.
Never. No, it was funny to me because I think for most of college, wasn't I piggybacking on your Netflix, Ben?
Yes, you were.
And I hardly ever used it either. But either way,
that's
the times I needed it.
My family piggybacks on my Netflix. I pay for the Netflix, and they use it. It's usually the other way around.
No, that's not
fair.
fair.
We didn't know that.
It's fair for me to do it. It's not fair.
I'm okay to contribute that to my family. I mean, my God, I don't do much else. But so anyway, they're in the friggin' factory, and Taelia says, "Wow, this is a weird place."
No kidding. It makes her look very green.
But here's the thing: she's very she takes it in stride a little more than I think is realistic.
Yeah, if I would be in this, I'm like, what? I would have been like, "Whoa, what the crap is all this? What?" And Taelia's like, "Oh, well, yeah, this is weird." And then she does not disbelieve Jeremy when he says the things that he says. She takes it as, well, okay, I guess this is what's happening.
And she says, if it's really as dangerous as you say it is, why don't you just shut it down?
She arrives at that very quickly.
But then...
She does, and Jeremy kind of stammers about it.
Well, he says, I can't shut it down because you're a part of it.
But then... Is he at one point slightly convinced that because Taelia is here, he doesn't have to keep the supercomputer on anymore?
I believe that's the implication. He struggles with it, or he is internally struggling with that idea. But I believe that's what he's thinking: is that, well, wait, Aelita's standing here in front of me. Why can't I just turn off the supercomputer? And then that's when Odd comes in. Is it immediately after? Did Odd follow them?
I think Odd and Ulrich both come in at just the right moment to stop him.
Yeah, and Odd's like, wait, we have to know. We can't just do this without knowing for certain.
Odd is being very sensible in this episode.
He is. Odd is the logic in this episode.
He is, and Jeremy is the goobus.
The what? The goobus?
How the turntables. So, Odd and Ulrich convince, and they have to try to convince Jeremy to let them go to Lyoko so that they can see what's going on, to see if they can find Aelita. Right. And Jeremy's like, you're not going to find her because she's right here, and he's screaming at them. She's right here in front of you. What do I have to do to tell you?
But it turns out that Taelia snuck away.
Yes, she did. He turns around for 1 second to virtualize Odd and Ulrich, and then he turns around, and Taelia's gone.
She is booking it out of the factory. And we see her running, past the factory, which is she's beyond the bridge and she's just running, which is unusual because it seems to me like she wouldn't know where to go since she got there through, tunnels. But hey, what do I know?
I'm sure she just wanted to. I'm sure she was.
Well, maybe she just knows her way around town.
Maybe
she does. As a side note, they use the boiler room to get to the factory this time, and I always thought of the boiler room as the secondary access, but it seems like in the first season they use it more than they use the manhole in the park. Do you get that sense, or am I just crazy?
That sounds about right.
Yeah, that does sound like it, and they definitely use it more in season 1. After that, it just ends up being, oh man, I just remembered. There's a point in season 4 where they try to use the door, and for once it's locked.
Oh yeah. Like, what? They locked this door? They locked the boiler? Why would they do that in a school full of 12-year-olds?
Well, that's just it. They're really shocked. Like, they try the door, they're like, what? It's locked? It's never locked.
That's a low-key deconstruction.
It is. I love it. What was I going to say?
So we're in the mountain sector, which, did I mention, is the most beautiful and best sector.
It is the best sector.
It's misty. It's not as misty in future seasons. Lyoko looks the best in season 1,
it
absolutely.
Does.
But there's, these purple mountains.
And there's something...
They're very majestic.
I keep interrupting you. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
No, go for it. I was just saying they're very majestic.
There's something that I surprisingly never noticed before. African trees. I don't know what they're called, but they're those trees from The Lion King that they have like squiggly branches with like tufts of leaves at the end.
I thought they were like bonsai trees.
Oh, that's what they are?
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
You know the kind I'm talking about, right? Like,
I believe I know what you're referring to, but I think they're bonsai trees.
You know what? That's much more likely. Especially given that Thomas Romaine's thumbprint is all over this episode.
Yeah, like this is Weeb Central.
Oh, yes, it is. Also, I want to note that on Jeremy's computer screen, now that we've seen all 4 sectors, for the first time, we see the full Lyoko map.
You're right. This is the first time that we see that.
Isn't it? I'm. Feel free to correct me.
No, you're right.
Totally wrong.
I just didn't. I mean, I've been into Code Lyoko for so many years. I know what Lyoko looks like. I wouldn't have stopped to think about not being able to see it until just then.
Yep. So we have the sectors are arranged in sort of a cross inside a sphere, and there's
another sphere at the center of the cross.
Yes, but what is that? We don't know yet.
If you are a big fan of Homestuck, it looks vaguely like the design of the Incipisphere.
Every single time Homestuck is mentioned anywhere, it sets my heart aflutter.
Good. So yes, Ulrich and Odd look around, and what do they find within like 5 seconds?
Odd has a future flash.
He does!
Which, for all I know, might be the last time that he does.
Second to last. He does it at least one
Second to last. Okay. And he sees the Guardian with Aelita inside it.
You guys remember the Guardian,
but he
right?
doesn't know what it is.
You guys remember the Guardian from Image Problem?
Well, I remember the Guardian.
I'm talking to our dear listeners.
I couldn't tell, so I wanted to be clear. I like it when people are paying attention to me and talking about me, so I wanted to make sure that you were not talking about me. So Odd's like, oh, well, Aelita's in a Guardian, or he says some kind of fireball, again, as if he didn't just see one a little while ago. He seems to completely forget about what it is, but they go off to look for it.
He does, yeah, they go off to look for it. Meanwhile, Taelia is back at the school, and she passes by Yumi, and they have this weird scene where they pass by each other and like give each other the stink eye.
And there's thunder in the BGM.
Oh yeah.
But why? That's not Sissy. That's Taelia, and they'd never even met before. So why are they so mad?
They've never interacted.
Why are they so mad, you guys?
I don't know. Maybe Taelia just hates everything at this point, which wouldn't put it past her.
That's so funny. That dramatic thunder. Oh man. Or maybe, well, no. I mean, Yumi does know who she is.
Yumi knows who she is, but Taelia doesn't know who Yumi is. It's a very weird exchange. Either way, Yumi immediately tells Jeremy that Taelia is headed into the principal's office, which shocks Jeremy, and he immediately fears the worst.
As he should, because the worst is happening.
Yes, the worst is happening. She is going straight to the biggest authority she knows, and then, almost immediately after, he finds out that is definitely not Aelita, because Aelita never left Lyoko.
She is, in fact, in a Guardian sphere. As Odd so correctly visualized earlier. they try to attack the Guardian Sphere. Odd shooting arrows at it, and he's like, "It's not working," and Ulrich keeps attacking it with his sword, and it just sort of like bounces off, or it doesn't bounce off, but just like
he's
nope.
very
every
happy
time he hits it.
to hit it. He's very enthusiastic about finally getting to inflict violence in a Guardian. He's like, the only thing to do is to use force.
So Jeremy says that he can program something. He doesn't do it immediately, right? It takes a little bit of time, and then we see that Jean-Pierre and the police and Taelia are on their way to the factory, and of course Taelia can just take them right on through because Jeremy showed her everything.
Yep, including the code.
Talia's such a Melvin.
She is. Well, I mean, she's scared. She doesn't really know what's going on, and Jeremy has been absolutely no help on this front. So, looking back, I don't blame her as much. I feel like we see her as bad because we know the truth about what the kids are doing, but Taelia doesn't know. All she knows is there's this freaky thing going on that's making samurai suits come to life and try and kill her.
Well, it's not really trying to kill her. She just thinks that it is.
Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's redundant. Forget about it.
No. It's fine. Speaking of this suit of armor, while this is all going on, Yumi is left alone at the school, and the Pick on Yumi week has its last hurrah as the samurai suit chases her all over the school. In actually a very interesting fight sequence. Takes her all over. It's pretty cool.
And Yumi,
it's one of the
she
few
grabs
times,
a piece of metal.
I keep doing it. It's one of the few times when we get to see the locker room at Kadic.
You're right.
Yeah.
But Yumi grabs a piece of metal and uses it as a sword to fight the suit of armor, which is interesting, but you'd think that maybe she would improvise some kind of fan. But no, she's pretty skilled with whatever you can give her.
She is. It's pretty cool.
So the tower that's activated, Jeremy's super scan discovers it. It's actually in the forest. So we finally discover how it is that Aelita can move around in Lyoko, and how anyone can move around in Lyoko and get from sector to sector. They go into a tower.
Not quite yet. We haven't released Aelita from the Guardian yet.
Oh, a freck. I forgot.
That's okay.
What happens is that Jeremy creates a hologram of Aelita, and that confuses the Guardian, which tries to get bigger to stretch so that it can consume both Aelitas, but it's not big enough and it explodes.
And that is the last we will ever see of the Guardian. At least when it's called
officially.
The There's other orange sphere things in Lyoko at other times, but they're never called
one
Guardians.
more Guardian appearance, and it's the one you guys are thinking of. It is called a Guardian in that episode.
It is?
It is.
Which episode?
It's a season 4 episode.
Oh, yes. It is.
I forgot about the season 4 episode.
Oh, yes,
we were
you're
thinking.
right.
We were thinking of Ghost Channel.
Yeah, we were. Which is a similar conceit. But it's not called a Guardian, I don't think.
Well, we'll find out. Also,
we will find out.
No Sissy, no Nicholas, and no Herb in this episode.
Oh, you're right.
You're right. Oh.
A few episodes ago, I wondered if there was more than one episode without them, and it turns out there is.
There is. But either way, yes. It explodes, and they have Aelita back. And then... And then...
they go to find the other tower.
This confused me because I guess another thing that proved to me I had never seen this episode all the way through. I didn't know this was the first time that that someone other than Aelita had been in a tower.
For a very long time, I was under the impression that only Aelita could go into towers, which is why I know that I saw this episode much later than all the others, because if I had seen it in sequence, I would have known the whole time. But for whatever reason, I always thought that only Aelita could go inside the towers. But no, they all go inside the tower, and then they jump off the platform. And what we discover is that when you go down, when you fall off that platform, under the tower is a tunnel of data, and there's blue screens, and it's this really cool sequence.
Yes.
And they whoosh, and then they come out in a different tower, and it turns out that they are now in the forest.
Very well done.
It's we will later find out that these towers that can take you from sector to sector are called way towers.
Yes.
Is every tower a way tower?
It's inconsistent. Like, some sources say that way towers are just that. They can't be activated or used for any other purpose. Sometimes you see a way tower activated. Sometimes any tower can be a way tower. It's inconsistent.
The theory that I had heard most that gained the most traction with me is that there are certain towers that are way towers that take you to other sectors. The rest of the towers can take you to another tower in the same sector. But again, that's just a theory because no one outright says any of these things.
I can embrace it. Ed cannot accept it.
I can embrace that too. I like that idea. So after that, we get pretty much a standard Lyoko fight. The enemies this time are a few blocks, and we actually get to see it use its ice lasers. Ulrich and Odd handily beat the blocks.
Odd says that blocks are his favorite monsters,
Oh,
which means
you're
that Odd
right.
and I have that in common.
My favorite is still the Cankalots.
That happens to be Yumi's least favorite monster.
Yes, exactly.
Yumi doesn't like bugs.
Oh, I also forgot to say, they directly reference in this episode that the Guardian had appeared before and captured Yumi, which surprised me that they actually have continuity in Season 1.
Yeah, that is
I
not
told you they
not
did
altogether
that.
common.
But I told you they did that.
You did. I'm sure you did. I'm so sorry.
I'm not sure if I'm ready to forgive you yet.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. You goofball.
Oh, okay.
So they defeat the monsters, and then is it pretty standard? Aelita gets into the tower, pauses time just as the samurai suit is about to. It's actually kind of a haunting scene. The samurai has cornered Yumi, and she's sort of cowering back to the wall. And we see her eyes get really wide, and she's screaming because the sword is coming down at her, and then it stops.
Yep, pretty much. Like I said, last
And
this
is one of those. It may as well be a mistake, but the return to the past happens, and Jeremy shouts, "Return to the past now!" while literally being carried away, dragged by police officers.
Oh yeah, by the way, Taelia got back in and she brought the principal, she brought the police, and yes, they are physically dragging Jeremy away from the supercomputer.
But then time reverses and it's all fine and no problems at all.
Right, as
Yumi
usual.
is able to do a report, and when she finally shows them the suit of armor, everyone's like, "Wow, this is really cool, Yumi, this is the greatest report I've ever seen." And then we pan down and the suit of armor distinctly has shackles on its legs.
And that's that's it's kind of an everyone laughs ending for the audience.
That's my trope. I made the everyone laughs ending trope.
You did?
Really?
Yes,
Awesome.
That's one of mine.
Wow.
Cool. And we finally get to see what becomes of Taelia, which is that she's still at the school. And we never get any indication that she's ever not at the school, even after Aelita is enrolled.
Well, don't forget, she's an orphan.
Yes. That's one thing that we learn about her in this moment, that she is an orphan, which explains why, I guess we forgot to mention this part, that Jeremy mentioned something earlier about how, because she's actually Aelita, it makes sense that she wouldn't remember any family, and Taelia just gets pissed. And this is why, because she's an orphan.
And then there's this sequence where Jeremy starts telling Odd, the hair is different and the eyes are completely wrong. I don't know why you ever thought she was Aelita, Odd. And Odd's like, "What? You're saying I thought she was Aelita?" And then ha 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 ha.
Yes,
Credits.
of course. So yes, that was Girl of the Dreams. Now, you can't really discuss Girl of the Dreams without going into how fascinated people were with this Taelia character.
I don't remember that. I don't think I was a part of that scene.
It was...
Mary, I think you, out of all of us here, hold the record for having been in the fandom for the longest time.
Oh, that's
I was
true.
not active in fandom communities until probably about, let's say, my goodness, probably season 3. At least online. I watched the show before that. I didn't really participate in fandom. You've been kicking it with the Code Lyoko fandom for, well, probably just about the entire length of the series. So things that you remember might not be things that we do.
Maybe
you are
that's
the
true.
wise sage.
Oh. Well, it was never something that was super on the surface, but There's the fact that she looked so much like Aelita, that she came out of nowhere, that her name was an anagram of Aelita's name. It got people thinking that Taelia and Aelita had to be connected somehow, that she had to be connected to the supercomputer, that she was going to show up again and be relevant again, and spoiler alert, she never was. Like, this was... What?
Go ahead.
This was just like a one-episode deal. I distinctly remember one theory that she was like some remnant or fractured piece of Aelita's AI that had somehow been virtualized.
Materialized.
I keep saying virtualized when I mean materialized. Or that she was somehow Aelita's sister or something. And it, like I said, none of that came to pass, and Taelia has not been seen or mentioned since.
While we were recording this episode, listeners, I actually went to an old forum I used to frequent, and I tried to look up and see what kinds of things people said about Taelia. And what I did stumble across was that people, retrospectively, when they were looking back, were very disappointed that nothing really ever happened with Taelia.
Yeah.
People were like, whatever happened to her? And because we literally never see her again. There are background characters that only speak once. Taelia never again appears. Maybe they just thought that it would be confusing to see Taelia in the background. Maybe they thought, well, what if people think that's Aelita back there or something?
But Aelita,
I don't know.
Aelita gets a very different design later on. If you put them side by side as they exist now, I guess, as they look now, they wouldn't look alike at all.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, she does look a little like they draw Aelita later, but not super much. Like I said,
Aelita gets a new design starting with season 2. She gets a new design that's not how she looks in season 1. And the new design doesn't look like Taelia.
Yeah. But I was just looking this up as we were talking. Taelia is at least a prominent enough fixture in Code Lyoko fanfiction that on fanfiction.net she is one of the available characters that you can tag your fanfics with.
Really?
Yeah. And in fact,
wow,
that's cool.
Yeah, isn't it? I'm going.
What if she and Teo date? What if they go out, you guys?
Ooh. Oh.
What other characters are characters that you can select? Like what? Like obviously the main 5, and then
obviously
Sissy.
The main 5. They're Clone William.
Yes, Clone William.
There's Emily. Emily's on the list. There's Hiroki, Jim, Johnny, Kiwi. Oh, there's Laura, of course. She's from Code Lyoko Evolution.
Ugh.
Nicholas, Odd, Sam. You'll see her in a later episode. Tamia, Theo, Zama,
oh yeah,
William.
Sam does come back. She has more than one appearance.
Yeah, she has exactly 2 if you don't count Evolution, which...
She was in that too? I'm sorry, Sam.
That's a different Sam.
It's very unclear.
They race lifted her, didn't they?
Yeah, they sure did. Yeah, I might as well clarify for this for you guys. There's a character that appears later on. Her name is Samantha Knight. She appears twice in the series, and both of her appearances are pretty, they're interesting, let's put it that way.
I like her.
Yeah, I like her too. And later on...
But you know what? Now that I think about it, it's a little iffy, isn't it? A little bit iffy.
Very. She reappears, and she has a different last name. They act like she's the same person. And most prominently, the Samantha Knight from the original Code Lyoko is black. The Samantha Suarez from Code Lyoko Evolution, who they're kind of pretending is the same person, is white.
How do they I never actually saw much of Evolution. How do they pretend they're the same person?
They don't mention it at all. They just act as if she's the same person.
Yeah,
but
they sure do.
Do they mention the fact that, like,
Nope.
Do they acknowledge
don't
previous events at all?
They imply that she's the same Sam. They imply that there's that same history with Odd.
What if she's not the same Sam?
I don't know. To be honest with you, I
mean, she doesn't have the same last
Evolution
name
closely, or
she doesn't have the same last name. She can have the same first name.
Maybe they wanted us to think that she was a different Sam, but they still acted as if she was the same.
Maybe.
But if they don't,
but I
if
think
they don't
we are having a
directly
discussion right
acknowledge
now
the previous events involving Sam, then there's no reason to assume that it's the same Sam.
I think we are 7 levels removed from our current episode.
Okay, let me take us back.
We are.
Let's talk about Sam when there are episodes of Sam.
Let me take us back. Question. What do you think Taelia would have looked like on Lyoko?
A
suspiciously off-colored Aelita,
yes.
obviously.
Yes, absolutely. Also, I did a little more digging. There are exactly 19 fanfics on fanfiction.net tagged Taelia.
Any good ones?
Well, how about that?
Not that I could... I mean, I didn't read them. I just know that she was enough of a fixture in fanfic to get 19 fics.
But who does she get shipped with? That's what I want to know. Is it odd?
I can't tell if she was shipped with anyone.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's fanfiction.net, so she was clearly shipped with someone.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Probably Xana. You know how these things are.
You can check for pairings, though. And what I really want to know if there are any Jim Kiwi fanfics.
Oh, let's let slumber what slumbers, and you can do research on your own time.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm gonna make my own podcast where I do nothing but review Jim Kiwi fanfics.
It's gonna be a short podcast,
It
friend.
will be. Unless you write your own.
I might.
Review your own fanfics.
Yes. Oh, man. And I guess our final thing for
Did
the
you
evening
know-
is... What?
Did you know there was a cracked article about this. Somewhere on the internet, there is a Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan forum, quote unquote, where there's only one member, and this one member posts repeatedly and replies to herself, and pretends like there's this whole community, but it's really just her.
Oh,
Oh, my goodness.
that's sad.
It's really sad.
It's a little funny, a little bit.
I don't really... I remember seeing that exact article, and I don't really know how to react to that.
What if she has multiple personality disorder, and all of her personalities are big Buffy fans?
I mean, Buffy's a good show.
I've never
It
seen
is.
it. I've never seen it.
I've only seen a couple episodes.
I've seen
Me neither.
the movie, but not the show itself.
From what I've heard, the movie is very, very different.
That's what I've heard too.
Well, it is on my list. Let's see. I think the one last thing we had was, I guess before we depart, we should address one of our followers on Twitter asked us this question, which was, do we think that the Code Lyoko novels are canon? And
We
I
should
think that,
name the person, or did they ask to remain nameless?
I think we should just sort of do that as a rule, since so many people have requested that we keep them anonymous, unless... Oh man, I don't know how to handle this.
I think it's best to have an abundance of caution.
Yes.
So, thank you to our Twitter follower. If in the future you want to interact with us, you can let us know if you would like us to identify you or not.
But I thought the rule
but
was identify unless they specifically ask not
we
to.
have changed our mind because we did that before, and each time we were asked to keep the person anonymous after the fact.
Well, you guys didn't tell me about that. So, okay.
No,
So-
David, it's okay. What do you want to do?
Well, if the person asked not to be named, then let's not name them.
Well, they didn't ask. We're just...
Well, don't worry about it. Let's just read the thing. They asked
Okay.
if the novels are canon, right? If we think the novels
Yes.
are canon.
To be honest, I'm not sure how well equipped I am to answer that because I haven't read them all. I've read the first, a translation of the first, not the other 3. I guess I should clarify what these are, since I'm not sure how many modern fans or listeners would know about these. Soon after the original series ended, but before Code Lyoko Evolution was a thing, an Italian writer was commissioned by Moonscoop to write 4 Code Lyoko novels that would sort of constitute a continuation of the series. These novels, I think only the first 2 were ever released in French. They were never released in English.
But they were fan-slated by people from Lyoko Freak.
Yes, they were.
I only read half of the first. And I think it's pretty clear that they take place in a separate universe. Because some of the events leading up to, spoiler alert, Aelita's materialization are very different. And Yumi has a radically different personality, where she is a man-hater who doesn't like that there are no other girls on their team.
Aelita's hair isn't pink.
That's right, it's not
What?
pink! It's red! She's a redhead!
Yeah.
Oh my god. Huh. I guess I haven't read them. But I want to talk more broadly about the idea of canon. Because without the distinct statement from the owner of the material, you can't really tell.
No, you can't.
They may have intended for it to be canon, but obviously, I mean, half of them weren't even translated into French, you know? Obviously, it sounds like the project didn't quite work out the way they had intended it to. When Code Lyoko Evolution happened, there are things in Code Lyoko Evolution that directly contradict what happened in the novels, I'm told.
Absolutely.
I would be more inclined to believe that Code Lyoko Evolution is canon over the novels, if there is in any place where there's a conflict between them. I mean, you can have a debate in any fandom about what is canon and what is not. For instance, there are people in Star Trek who refer to the phrase Roddenberry canon, as in the canon of Star Trek that was released while Gene Roddenberry was alive, and that episodes issued after the fact have a lesser basis. I'm not sure if it's in debate or not. People talk about the Star Trek licensed novels. Are they canon? The same kind of canon as the actual as the actual series itself. We have an exactly identical situation here. Are these licensed novels canon as the same as the series is? It's ambiguous, so I am inclined, as I said, not to think so. But at the end of the day, it's not like there's any true yes or no answer here.
Have you heard of the book Shatnerquake?
No.
I cannot say that I have.
Oh, I am so glad I get to be the first person to tell you about Shatnerquake.
What's Shatnerquake?
It's a novel. This is a real book that you can buy that's set at a Star Trek convention where an anomaly happens and every character that William Shatner has ever portrayed comes to life.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
And there's also a group of people called Campbellians who worship Bruce Campbell. And they are involved in the plot somehow. I've never read it, I just know about it.
That's beautiful.
We're going to have to read that episode and have a podcast about it, because that sounds fantastic.
That sounds spectacular. Oh man, now I want to get my hands on that book. Did we have anything else?
One more thing about the books.
What?
They say that the action takes place in the city of the Iron Tower.
Oh yes, that's right.
Oh yes, that's right.
It's not Paris, it's steampunk Paris, or cyberpunk Paris, as the case may be.
Yeah, which I'm not sure I liked as much. I mean, I'm all for like acknowledging the Frenchness of the show as much as possible. I know not everyone agrees.
You know how I feel about that.
Okay, I think my voice is starting to give out again. Then
so ratings.
Ratings, right. Yeah, I'm still not really a fan of this episode.
I mean, I did not like the episode. No, as far as the quality of the episode, it's a pretty standard episode. I'm gonna give it. I think I'm comfortable giving it a 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's way too low for me. I was gonna give it an 8.5 out of 10.
Oh.
Really,
Yeah.
I could be persuaded to like a 6.5, maybe 7, but that seems awfully high to me. But then, I don't mean to criticize.
No, I get it. It's just I like Taelia as a character. I think she's interesting. I think there was a lot of potential there that was never fulfilled. That was never
right,
tapped.
which is a recurring theme with the show, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential there, but just the way that it was presented here, the fact that it took me 12 years to properly watch this episode, I mean, that's kind of something to its detriment. Or maybe I'm just crazy.
Also, the script is very good. I think the script is good. It's cringy at times, but it's always in character. It's realistic. And
As you mentioned that, I'm not sure that there have ever been Code Lyoko episodes where the writing was my problem.
sometimes it's a little weak or a little generic. But in this
Tidal
episode,
wave?
all the characters'
Tidal wave.
personalities really shine.
Tidal wave.
Hideaway?
Oh yeah,
Hideaway? I don't remember Hideaway.
It's the healthy eating episode.
tidal wave.
Oh, Tidal Wave!
With the food. Oh,
Food golem!
Okay.
Yeah!
Yeah.
Okay, listeners, that will be for another
I
time.
like Tidal Wave.
That will be for another time.
You know which episode is really weird? The one where
What?
these two men in black show up at Kadic, and one of them has a normal voice, but the other one has this really squeaky, high chipmunk voice.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Season 3 in general is a little weird, isn't it?
Which it's the shortest season, and thank God that it is.
It is.
It's all right. I don't mind it.
It's all right, but it doesn't really know what it's doing with itself.
It's a dork
age.
Of the time. It's the dork age.
Yeah, it is. It is the dork age.
Well, looks like we're done
that's that. Here. And Ben, do you have that script?
I do.
You could read it this time if you would like.
Sure. Okay. All right, folks. Thanks for joining us. You've been listening to Return to the Past, a Code Lyoko retrospective, which is produced, written, and directed by the Supernuclear Group. You can find us on Twitter and Tumblr at RTTP Podcast. That's RTTP and then the word podcast. Or you can email us at rttppodcast@gmail.com. You can also find David on Twitter at DavidRTTP.
Woo!
Cover art consideration is provided by Ingram Comics at Ingram, INGRAM, comicswithanx.com. If you like what you're hearing, or even if you don't, please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast on whichever platform you like. Thanks for listening, and as ever, super nuclear.
Wait, no, we have to say I'm Mary, I'm David, I'm Ben.
Oh, and I'm Ben.
Oh.
And I am David.
And I'm Mary.
Okay, bye.
Let's just keep it like that.
On me dit que je ne suis qu'un bon à rien, un vrai loser. Hey, d'un mot qui sonne, je ne suis plus dans le coup. Une flèche au cœur, je fais plus partie du show. Tirer le rideau, éteignez les lumières. Qu'est-ce que je peux faire, coincé sur ma chaise? Déchaînez-moi, on va s'envoler. Le plus pour faire retrouver le soleil. Si déjà parti, les ailes en bataille,